agentic browsing. Um, Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to talk about that today because we are going to look at some advanced prompting for the educational context. This is module 3, session number 2, advanced prompting for educational context. Thank you for that initial conversation on Comet and Perplexity. I just want to go over the session goals real quick here. We want to develop sophisticated prompting techniques specifically tailored for educational applications, including role-based prompting, chain of thought reasoning, and scaffolding strategies. We're going to create some discipline-specific prompt templates that can be adapted and reused across multiple teaching contexts while maintaining pedagogical effectiveness. We'll see what we can do. By the end of this session, we're going to apply the advanced prompting techniques, including role-based prompting, as I mentioned. We're going to design complex educational prompts. We're going to develop discipline-specific prompt template library. That's what we're going to do for the apply section. I saw a couple of apply from last week submissions, and it's looking pretty good. Some of those, looks like those templates can just be copy and pasted for any type of assignment or any type of resource that you're looking to create for your courses here. We'll analyze connections between effective prompting strategies and sound pedagogical questioning practices. And then hopefully in the network section, y'all can exchange and adapt your prompt templates. What we need for today, access to your favorite large language model. If you have your prompt library from session 3.1, that will be handy. Course materials and learning objectives from your discipline. If you don't have the actual file and content, just what are some of the things that you use to be able to describe it, it should be okay. And then we have our journal. And then if you have any complex assignments or projects, then try to get those as well to try to help with that. For our listen today, I'm going to do it a little bit differently because I found that it's taking too long to get through all of this content. So, and I don't want to be the person talking the whole time. I'd rather make it more interactive and have the conversation with y'all because you all have your experiences and we want to hear that and we want to share. And we've done that a little bit, but I want to be more intentional with that because I think hearing from you all is important. So quick little update. So we talked a little bit about Perplexity up top, as I mentioned. Some AI news for the week. Drop this into the chat. Google launches Gemini 3. Has anybody gotten a chance to play around in Gemini 3? What were your experiences? I'll take the silence as nobody tried it, or okay, Jeremy tried it a bit and was impressed with the output quality. Is it compared to what you normally use? Is it better? Is it more or less the same? Any
Yeah, sorry,
expansion on that?
I'm also I'm in a driving similar situation. So, but yeah, I just compared outputs across, like GPT-5, which is what I normally use with Gemini 3, and overall, the outputs for Gemini 3 were a lot better, and they didn't have a lot of the same kinds of errors that you would encounter with most of the models.
Okay. David in the chat saying Nano Banana is fun. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of interesting images come out of that and some videos. Just for kicks and grins, I tossed in this listen from today, and I said teach me more about this, to try to kind of expand a little bit more. I've got here are, real quick snippets of information where I usually talk more and expand on it, but I try to see just with a one-shot prompt, with tell me more, and I pasted all of that content, and it gave back, let's see if I can zoom this in here, close that out. Yeah, it added a little bit. It kind of, in my opinion, just kind of reorganized it. It gave some examples, or it gave some benefits, application to education, more or less the same. I don't know if it really taught me more than what I already have there. But it put this little video here, and I thought it was interesting that it gave this video only 388 views, and maybe uh, Sandeep's explanation here is the go-to example. But um, I mean, it's cool. Number one, that it has the video in the response. I'm just wondering where they chose the video from. Um, and then I said, can you make a graphic to help understanding? And then it gave me this, which at initial glance looks pretty, but as with a lot of AI, once you start to look at it a little bit more carefully, you can start to see kind of some issues here. Like I'm not really sure what this is. Step one here. I don't think the flow chart is supposed to work like that. And I don't know if these are placed in the most ideal placement. So they'll still, much better than, some of the tech stuff that I was getting even earlier this year, but still not able to one shot a infographic. So um, I'd be interested in hearing if anybody has any other experiences with Gemini or Nano Banana. But let's move on to our main topic here related to this advanced prompting. So the first type of advanced prompting, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put this here, and I'm just going to kind of zoom this in. This is not very professional, but I like this better anyways, because then it's got everything here on one page. So I'm just going to briefly go over these ones. But while I'm doing that, while I'm going over role-based prompting, I want y'all to think about which role could most improve the usefulness of the AI you use in your discipline. So I'm going to ask around. This time, I'm going to call on people. So try to at least think of an answer of how you would use one of these roles, or if there's another one that I don't mention here that you use as a role, uh, what would you use? And also feel free to put it into the chat if you'd like. Um, so role-based prompting is basically when you give your AI a role at the beginning. You can give it an expert persona. So give it a role for something context specific. So here, there's an example down at the bottom. You're an experienced biology professor explaining photosynthesis to freshman students. For me, when I use role-based, I feel like it really, you've got all the data swirling around in the large language model. When I say you are an experienced biology professor, I feel like it really hones it down, and then gives better results, and possibly faster results, because it's not and more specific results for sure. Kelly?
I recently used it this week and gave it a role as a hiring manager, um, hiring or an IT hiring manager, hiring for a server administrator. And the reason I did that is because our students need to start thinking about that as they move through the program and what are their what are they looking for? And then we also did it where we asked about terminology. So we said, you're a hiring manager, and if for an IT company, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by an email. We're a hiring manager for an IT. You are a hiring manager for an IT company, and you're looking for a server administrator. What roles or duties would apply? And then what I would do is have my students dig into that to try to figure out, like companies name their duties and roles differently. That was the whole point. So it
Mm,
spit out a big list, and my students were going, "Wow!" And then we asked it, "Well, you know, taking this list, what duties overlap?" And then that's when it started to become obvious where the state will call one position something and they'll call it different, and then the feds will call it something different, and then personal companies will call it something different.
mm.
And also what are you looking for in a new hire? Somebody out of school. We did that one too. And then
Oh yeah.
compared it to what we're doing and what they're working on. And it was fun.
Yeah, I'm assuming that there was a lot of overlap of
Yeah.
what you guys are doing and then what they're looking for. And was it I feel like that type of thing really contextualizes why you're in school and
Oh
what you're
yeah.
doing and gives them like, oh, okay, this job is looking for that. I should
Right.
actually, try hard to learn how to do this.
And how it came up was some questions I got from my students that were asking me, like, hey, I was looking at jobs and I found this, and then they titled it this. But then when I looked at the actual duties, it was called that at
Mm,
another company. And then they freaked out about AI for a while, I'll be honest with you. So then we had a heart to heart about, AI isn't really going to do away with jobs in our industry. It's going to change what they do and how they do the job.
mm,
And then we looked at, for example, tools. We looked at the use of AI and AI tools to make your job more streamlined. So explaining to them that, you're not going to lose the job, or there's not going to be less jobs per se. It's the jobs are going to be in how you do them, and what you use to do them is going
right.
to change, especially in IT security and in IT as a whole. You still need bodies to put those servers in the racks and put those switches and routers in and run the cables. You know what I
Good
mean? And
enough.
that's something we talked about, and
Yeah.
overseeing what's happening also. So
Yeah, I feel like a lot of what's going to happen with new skills that need to be learned is skills on how to direct the AI to do the thing that you want it to do. And then knowing, and this is where, for now, the human is important. Knowing how to judge the AI and like the response and know if it's any good or not. And so, um, I see Jeff Turner has hand up.
So this week's exercise was putting or modifying program learning outcomes to reflect the new college-wide learning outcome improvements. And then where in the course outcomes can we improve those so that we can get all the way down to an assignment and an assessment,
Yep.
since general education has punted on that part. And so the role I put the AI in finally was a critique. If we did this assignment in order to do, or the um, course outcome, could we actually assess that? Is it measurable?
Mm, yeah, that's the big work that we're trying to figure out how to do is to we for those that are at Clover Park already know, but for those that weren't that don't go to our college, we or don't instruct at our college, work at our college. Our last outcomes and assessment day was really focused on how we can understand the college-wide learning outcomes because we recently updated them, and some of the terminology is difficult for. I mean, some of it's just it's pretty dense and it's very difficult concepts to grasp at first glance. Um, Once you kind of think about it and reflect on your bias and all that kind of stuff, um, hopefully it becomes a little bit clearer. But yeah, how do you measure those outcomes and so yeah, it's a lot of work. It's not easy, but using AI to at least get some ideas, I think is definitely helpful. I see in the chat, Alyssa says, I frequently use you are an experienced instructional designer. You are an experienced educational researcher. Yeah, those are great, especially when you're trying to create learning resources. There's some other things here. So you can have a teaching assistant mode, directing AI to be a supportive, to use supportive and student-friendly language. If you're going to set up something like a teacher assistant for your student, you can use it to get the student perspective. At last year's outcomes and assessment day, we set up prompts for faculty to use to try to get in the perspective of ALICE students. Those are asset limited, income constrained, and employed, which are a lot of the students at our institution. And then a peer reviewer role, get AI to provide feedback from a colleague's viewpoint. I use this one a lot. I try to sometimes I go back and forth and I'll say like you I'll say here this is what ChatGPT gave me. I'll toss it over into Claude and say, what do you think about that? Toss it back and I just kind of have the AI review each other and then put my 2 cents in there on how I think uh, the results are coming. Um, let's move on down here to inclusive design principles. So some of the things that you can do when you're prompting, asking for step-by-step breakdowns, prompt AI to show reasoning explicitly. So this could be interpreted as either you asking for step-by-step, like if you're going to give instructions for an assignment, that is really helpful for transparency. Um, but always double check the steps because it was last year I asked it to say, what's the process for putting together a simple syllabus or like anytime I ask it to do anything in Canvas, how do I do this? The steps are almost always wrong. But using it to break down the steps of its reasoning and show basically like asking AI to show its work. I feel like the models now kind of they have it sometimes when you have a pretty advanced request, it'll say what it's doing. Like before it used to be like a little round, it's like a little loading icon, but now it says kind of what it's doing and you can kind of click into it and see like, oh, it's reviewing the text that you provided. Here it's doing its own amateur research. Kelly in the chat says it's like getting Alexa and Siri to communicate with each other. I've seen that video before where you've got two AIs arguing with each other. Problem solving sequences. So this is kind of similar idea here. The multi-step logic, if it's a really complex task. Scaffolded learning, that's just good pedagogy. If you can stack the learning, they need to learn this in order to then do the next thing, and then they need to learn that to do the next thing. And then error analysis, have AI walk through some common student mistakes. This will be great for if you're planning out a lesson and trying to anticipate some of the errors that your students might have. Our discussion prompt for this one, before I talk about the applications, how might showing step-by-step reasoning help your students to learn more effectively? I mean, I think it might be something that we all know already, but if anybody wants to expand on what I've talked about already. Some applications here of these inclusive design principles are breaking down complex theories into teachable steps, as I mentioned. Sometimes my son, he's working on some pretty advanced math that I'm not sure sometimes where it's A's and X's, and now he's doing something with roots. And so like what I'll do is I'll snap a picture of the problem and I'll say, help me with this problem. He usually doesn't like that. He wants to figure it out himself, but then he gets really frustrated when he gets hit with a wall. So I'll do it for myself to get, okay, this is where, this is what needs to happen here. And then I'll talk about that with him and say, okay, what would you do here? And then try to help them with the rest of it. Exploring why students might misunderstand certain topics, that could be another application, and then designing progressive skill building exercises that's kind of related to that scaffolded learning. Multi-turn conversation strategies. So context maintenance, it seems like there's a point where the chat that you're in kind of goes off the rails. And I'm not going to go into too much of the behind the scenes, but basically there's a limit of what the chat can remember in your conversation. So the more you add to it, so it's like if I'm starting a conversation, it's going, okay, we're good. And then at some point when it passes the amount that we call the context window, it starts to lose the plot. It loses the initial task. It takes a lot of interactions, and I was reading something recently where depending on how how often you change the topic. An example would be I was working on something where we're like trying to get this grant, and we're filling in. I give it all the information from the grant, and I say, like what can be some things that we can put so that it could help to get us this grant. And then it's like, okay, I got an idea of my own that's related, but not exactly. And so like I should have made a new chat for that one, but I did it in that chat. And then I came back, okay, now like my idea is like I want to have it all in one place, but then now it's starting to be where I've gone too far. And so I'll be like, what are we doing here? And it can only really reference the most recent chats that I had with it. It doesn't know I guess the thesis, the main point of why I started the conversation. So if you have ChatGPT, I don't know if it's available. Let me see if I don't think it's available on the if you're not using the paid version. And if anybody can confirm if they have the paid version or not. Does anybody have ChatGPT that they don't pay for? Do you know if you have access to projects. So when I log into my ChatGPT on the left side, I've got my GPTs here, and then I've got projects. Does anybody know whether they have that or not? I'm not sure if this is okay, no projects in the unpaid version. Thank you. Kat, so if you do have the paid version, it's very nice to keep stuff that you're working all together on in one little project, because then you can start a new chat, but it'll still keep that context. You don't have to explain it every time. And so it's like applied AI. You can load in files. So I loaded in the session information that I put together for this course. And anytime I need some information related to this, then it'll have it here in the project. If you don't have a project, then some of the times what I'll do is, like, if I really like the way that a chat's going, and then I want to like mimic that chat into a new one, I'll say, what are we working on here? Can you explain, or like, can you summarize what we talked about, and create a prompt that I can use to continue this conversation into another chat. It's not always perfect, and like I said, the more that you have in a chat, the less that it's going to be able to um, remember for that prompt creation. But that's a pretty good way so that you don't lose the plot. Jeff says Notebook LM is a good place to consolidate documents for one project. Yeah, I definitely agree. You can load up a ton of stuff in there. Um, and yeah, I love Notebook LM because you can also create those study guides and podcasts and all that kind of stuff. Okay, does anybody else have experience with like really long chats and it losing the context? Plus, does anybody have any good tips on how to take what's happening in one chat and move it into another chat? Okay. Oh, yeah, Jeff.
I
Good,
I
Ted.
saw Jeff's hand.
I was gonna say I start a brand new project and then I move it over there manually. But I do have the paid version, so
Okay.
because I've made that same mistake
Yeah.
of continuing something and not realizing I did, and then I'm getting context that I have no idea how.
Yeah, it's like,
Where did
what are
that
you
come
doing?
from?
Do you know what we're doing here? Sometimes I'll say, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
I'll
All
just ask Jeff.
right. Thanks.
Jeff Turner.
I use a mixture of AIs. So I may use Notebook LM and all those documents and pull out this information and put it in this format, in this order. And then I can take that and use that as the input to ChatGPT to do the thing that I want to do. And when I
Mm,
have that document, save that someplace, and I might use a different either conversation or a different AI to do whatever the next step is.
yeah, I
Or
do
or
that
do
too.
that with your experts in the same AIs. Here's this, okay, now critique it, and then with that critique, how should we fix it?
Mm, yeah. Yeah, that's that kind of advanced prompting that we're looking at here. Um, I do, I don't know, I feel like the chat GPT I have, like, I haven't run into any problems with like amount of use, as opposed to Claude, which I pay for Claude, but it still says, okay, you're done for now. You can come back in like 3 hours and continue. So I'll do like Jeff said, is I'll do a lot of the prep work in ChatGPT, And then I don't know, I feel like Claude gives like I feel like it writes better. And so if I ever need to do any, first drafts or something like that, I'll prep the prompt in ChatGPT and then copy it over into Cloud. Yeah, there we go. I frequently run out of tokens when using Cloud. So collaborative development here, treat AI as a thought partner over time. That's, is a good way to look at it. As AI as something you can bounce ideas against. Progressive complexity, starting simple and then layering in the sophistication. That's something we kind of talked about last time. You want to start with a strong prompt, but not too strong. Otherwise, it's you want to set the stage first instead of just diving right in. Because if you have a prompt that's too long and too advanced, then it's probably going to miss something. Some conversation flow examples here. You have your concept request. AI is going to give you a response. You're going to refine it based on the student needs. You can ask it to refine it, and it's going to give you an improved version. And then you ask for some examples. It could give you some illustrations. It can, we talked about format last time, make it into a certain kind of format. And then here asking for assessment ideas, right? What we have this outcome, how can this outcome be assessed? And then that will align the evaluation method, and then ask for how to put it into your course, and then should give you some practical application steps. And so the good thing about using these conversational AIs is you can continue the conversation. We've got a practice prompt here. Think of a teaching task that you do regularly. What would it look like to build it step by step into a conversation with an AI instead of a single request? Anybody wants to tackle that one in the chat? So key takeaways here: roles shape responses. AI performs better when it's guided with a clear persona. Reasoning improves quality. Chain of thought prompts create deeper, more educational outputs. Conversations build complexity. Multi-turn dialogue supports the nuanced, discipline-specific content. And anytime you need to make an adjustment to the response, the original response. Pedagogy informs prompting, so strong teaching principles translates directly into strong AI prompts. And if you don't have those pedagogical tendencies, ask AI. Ask AI to help. Is this pedagogically sound? Or you can set up a template. So what we're going to do today in the Explore section, we're going to look at some advanced prompting techniques, comparing role-based approaches, chain of thought reasoning, and multi-turn conversations. So we're going to test each one, and we're going to kind of compare those ones. Currently in the chat, I use AI to clean up the instructions on how to build an SFTP server using Linux. That's in response to the question. Does it give you good instructions, Kelly?
Yeah, I had to feed what we had, but what we had was really too specific for the students, almost like, do these steps. Oh, if you run into this, do this. If you run into that, do that. And then my students go, well, I didn't run into any of that, So I use it to streamline it, and I haven't had any issues with it since. So
Nice.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so what we're going to do here, setup, we need our large language chatbot, whatever one. It says here, same tool, but feel free to use whatever you'd like. A complex teaching challenge. So think about a complex problem a multifaceted educational task that you might need help with. And then we're going to document this. So I'm just going to copy and paste the responses that I get into Microsoft Word. So I'll have my Word over here on the side. Select a teaching challenge that typically requires multi-steps or perspectives. And so that's what's going to give you kind of the best results here with this exploration. And let's see here. So for me, uh, let's see. Let's go down here, and then I'm kind of getting into the next steps. We're going to think of this as our lab. We're going to tackle some the same teaching challenges, but we're going to techniques and see which one produces the most useful results. So first things first, we have to choose your complex challenge. Maybe we can do this together if you want to if y'all want to work on it together. What kind of multi-layered educational tasks should we try to tackle here? Curriculum design, assessment strategy, student support, or an engagement challenge? Just you can put it into the chat if you want to do one specific one. Ooh, a review game. That could count as an assessment. Okay. So I like that. And then so for this one, we have a basic framework here for the role-based. What would our specific role be though? Where we pick let's see. So I guess we could use that that one that you said, Alyssa, earlier was instructional designer. So I'm going to copy this one up to here. So if you want to follow along, this is the basic framework. I'm gonna put this in the chat for y'all easy to access. And then I'm just gonna go to that non-paid version of chat just so that I can give y'all what if you don't have a paid version, this is what the kind of response that you will get. And then maybe I'll compare it to if you had a paid version. So I'm going to say you're an instructional designer, and I will say expert instructional designer. With since we're looking at assessment, I'll say something like deep knowledge in effective assessments. I need help with the challenge here, creating an engaging and informative review game for students. Consider this perspective of this. So remember that you are the expert instructional designer. When you're addressing, let's see, so here's talking about example roles. We have to think about some specific aspects. So how about students who didn't fully learn the material? Timing is usually something that's really important when you're thinking about doing review. How long is it going to take to explain the instructions? And then how long is it going to take for the game to happen? And then we'll say and try to make it inclusive for everyone. Respond in the voice and style of the expert instructional designer. So a couple of copy and paste here, and we've got our initial prompt. I'm just going to put this right here so that I know where I started with that. And I'm going to see what it comes up with. And so this is just a general, right? I didn't say that I was teaching any sort of specific topic or that I'm, a specific instructor in this type of class. So I'm curious to see what it comes up with. Maybe a general game that can be used in multiple disciplines. Here is a low prep, high impact learning game constructed through the lens of an expert instructional design. This game is built on 3 core principles: essential for meaningful review, retrieval, scaffolded support, and UDL. Nice. So mission mastery. It's a stations-based challenge game. Students rotate through themed missions that are the different stations, assuming in a physical classroom. Each mission targets a specific learning objective and provides tiered challenge options so students can choose their level of support. That's nice. It removes the high pressure, fastest answer wins structure. Now, I love Kahoot. I think Kahoot is so fun. But it really depends. Like if you have somebody, an all-star in your class that knows the content better than the rest, then it's not really that fun if you start to see their score go up, 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 and up, and then everybody else's score is kind of. Let's see here. The total time, this is 30 to 45 minutes. Launch and directions. I like this. Seems like it's going with like kind of a space game or a space theme. So the supported level for students who didn't fully learn the material. Got visual cues, partially completed responses, vocabulary banks. And then it tells the goal of this. I like that. Orbit is an on-level challenge, traditional task or problem tied to a learning objective. No scaffolds, full retrieval required. Okay, that one's demonstrating secure knowledge. And then deep space. Even though I'm in this version of ChatGPT that doesn't even know me, it knows that I love space stuff. Higher order application, explain why, create an example, or critique this flawed example, critique this AI response, right? This is going to advance learners without spotlighting on them. So, and then it's going to list the inclusive design. So it's got multimodal, giving different types of content for them to consume, rotations. Okay, Jeff says you might want to ask ChatGPT what it does know about you. I'm scared. What do you? Yeah. I was probably just going to bring up my LinkedIn stuff. Hopefully not. I want to be careful here. Oh, okay, good. Does not appear to be a widely recognized public figure, author, or historical figure. It's true. And I want to avoid guessing or providing information about a potentially private individual.
So that looks like guardrails to me. What I've found is I've asked, do I need to repeat my context that I teach at a vocational college? I teach juniors and seniors. I do cybersecurity, blah, blah, blah. And ChatGPT will tell me in a new conversation, no, I know about that. You don't need to remind me.
Oh, really?
So the answer that you got might be guardrails.
Ronald Lefkoe from Clover Park. Let's see. So this is not private individual. Oh, and they got it wrong. Clover Park School District. All right. right, I don't want to go down that road. Um, I'll do that later, not in the middle of our example here. Okay, let's look at this one. Does the AI response feel authentic to the role? And I'm pretty sure I just closed out of let's see, reopen the close tab. Nope. I think I closed out of what I was interacting with. And now I'm really lost. Hold on. Let's see here. I think I lost my. Okay, here we go. This is where I'm at. So probably should have saved that as soon as it came in. How does this expertise perspective? I can't remember what it was. For me, I thought it was pretty authentic. I think that's pretty pedagogically sound to set up differentiated learning for students at different skill levels. How does the expertise perspective change the advice? I didn't do it without saying that I was that role, so I probably have to do that again, but take out the role and just say make a review game. Response be more useful than generic AI output. I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. I liked what I was reading about that game. All right, so let's try another one here. We have best practices identification. This one here is actually no, this is just chain of thought framework. So let's try this with the step-by-step reasoning. One of the disadvantages of not having chats in your own version of ChatGPT is that if you close it, you lose it. So that happened. Chain of thought. Help me solve by thinking through it step by step. First, analyze what makes this challenging by considering. Okay, I'm just going to start filling this stuff in. So I still want the review game. This time I'm not giving it a role. So we're trying to compare the responses if you give it a role or not. Thinking through it step by step. Solve.
What about create?
Yeah, problem of creating a effective and what did I say? Informative
Engaging.
review game. First, analyze what makes this challenging by considering the class has students at different levels. Then identify the key factors that I need to address. Then identify the key factors I need to address. Seems fine. Next, propose specific strategies that account for what was the other thing that was the problem that I was having? Timing. Finally, explain how to implement and evaluate success. That seems fine. And show your reasoning for each step. So let's see what this one goes how this result comes. Structure of the reasoning without revealing internal chain of thought, followed by actionable steps. Say without revealing. Is there something that I missed here in the steps? Thinking through this step by step. And here it says without revealing internal chain. I want the internal. Hold on. I want you to reveal internal chain thought. Misinterpreted what I was asking for. Explain my answer, summarize my reasoning, and break down the steps. Oh, but I can't provide my internal chain of thought. Those are not shared. Oh. I'm trying to get a little, pull the veil back, see what's going on behind the scenes. Clear step-by-step explanation of the logic behind the solution in a way that is still useful and transparent. Okay. All right, I'm just going to say do it. Let's do it step by step, starting with, what was the first thing that I said? Sorry, this is not good for y'all to look at as I'm scrolling up through. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let's put Gemini 3 to the test. Chat market field. That's a great approach. Create an effective review game for a mixed ability class requires careful planning. Here's a step-by-step breakdown with reasoning. It's weird. I don't know why chat didn't do that. Analyze the challenge of mixed level classes. Primary challenge is differentiation. Risk being too easy for advanced students, too difficult for struggling students, right? That's all what we're always trying to figure out. What's the best way to encompass all of our students? Yep, we know that one. Okay, so step 2 here. Let's see the reasoning. Oh, and then it's got the reasoning here. An effective review must be active, not passive. If the game doesn't appropriately challenge all students, it fails as an informative review tool and becomes solely competition. Maximizing entertainment over education. There's a lot of ed tech tools out there like that. Kahoot potentially being one of them. As much as I love Kahoot. Identify key factors to address to overcome the challenge of differentiation. We need to focus on structure, content, and team dynamics. Ooh, I like this. Scoring system that rewards depth and effort. Inclusive team structure, built-in explanations, propose strategies accounting for timing. Oh, you get more points. What is this? Analysis synthesis. This is the difficulty, or it's the okay. Sorry, y'all see my mind here. I'm trying jumping around here, trying to get the main point here on what the out of this response. All teams work. So this one, I feel like it's giving me the step-by-step considerations if I were to create, like what I should think about as I'm creating. Ooh, it's pretty okay. And so I'll say now, thanks for that. Now make the game. Let's see what it comes up with. Oh, let's see. Since the goal is a flexible and informative game structure, I will create a single HTML file for a tiered review challenge web app. This app uses the proposed structure 130 or 300, 500 point questions and includes key features like a timer. Whoa, this is crazy. You just made this. Oh, Gemini 3. Let's go. Start the timer. I can change the timer too? No way. Hold on. 600 minutes. Oh. Y'all seeing this? Team Alpha. How do I get points here? Oh, I click here. So Team Alpha got 100 points. Boom. And then round clarification. Use this space to review the key learning points or common misconceptions. This is cool. And this is HTML, and I could just click the code over and see the back end of how it was created. Console, save it. How do I do it? And then I can share it. Nice. I'm impressed. We don't have, I'll be in groups. We don't have enough time for this last one, but this one is basically, instead of doing it all in one prompt, I'll stick around. It's 4 p.m. I want to finish this one up, but I do want to say it is 4 p.m. And what I think we can embed this. I'm going to try to embed this in the we're gonna call this the after class. So if anybody needs to go, it's 4 p.m. Thank you for coming. I appreciate y'all. If anybody wants to stick around, I'm going to try to get this to work in Canvas. Hopefully without breaking Canvas. Oh, I forgot to say, next Friday, we are not going to meet because it's holiday. So we'll meet again in 2 weeks. We'll continue our experimentations in this course. Everybody, hang on just 1 second while I get into Canvas. I'm already in Canvas. Okay. Let's see here. So I'm going to go over here to pages and create just a quick little test page. We call it test. And I'm going to save this. I'm not going to save that. I don't have time for that. All right. We got our Google Gemini. I'm going to copy this code. Oh, you know what? It's not going to work in Canvas. I already know it's not going to work because I see all of this this language that Canvas doesn't understand. It's got the HTML. That's why I thought possibly it could work. But what you could do is create it just as an HTML and then like host it somewhere, and then just use it as an iframe embed as a kind of a workaround. Yeah, no, that didn't do anything useful in Canvas unless I save it. David?
I'm thinking as an admin, if you really wanted to get risky on your website, who knows what's in the code, you could probably put it in your JavaScript and then call it, but I wouldn't do that.
I'm not doing that. No way. I'll break Canvas. That's not on my list of things to do.
I guess you could try it on the beta side.
Oh, in our Canvas test instance?
Yeah, I mean, just for grins and giggles. I mean, someday.
We
But
were trying some JavaScript stuff. Actually, you know what? It might have worked because we're trying to create this progress bar so that inside of Canvas, it looks at the assignments that are due versus the assignments that the students have completed. And then it makes like this little bar at the bottom. And I feel like I saw James Shoemate have, like he showed me a Canvas, the test instance, and it had that bar at the bottom. So,
Ronald, what happens if you save it in files?
ooh, here we go. That's why I like doing this with y'all, because y'all are smart. Let me see here. I think I closed out of it. And now I have too many windows open.
if nothing else, if you put it in, or let's see, you could put the code into a Canvas page where somebody could copy and paste it into Gemini and run it through Gemini.
No, but
It
that would
should run
just
just
be
in a browser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put it in files and see if that gets cleaned up.
Okay, hold on. Let's see. I have it here. So I'm just gonna save this as game test. The desktop. Oh, and then I need to save this as a HTML. Hold on. Does anybody know the encoding UTF-8 is okay for HTML?
We'll find out.
And also, I should get rid of the space. I don't want to do it in this course. You're talking to a guy who's messed around in Canvas too much. Do I have anything that is unpublished? Okay. I'm sure it'll be fine, right? Famous last words. Okay. I'm gonna go to modules. I'm just gonna add this into the
Go
start here module.
go down to files and upload.
Can I not? Oh, okay. Let's do it that way. Upload. I was gonna try to add it as a document. Go desktop, game test. Okay. Oh, why is it text? This is not.
One to the right.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I uploaded the wrong one. This one. And upload the right one. Okay. Before publishing this, you must have usage rights. I made this with Gemini. Okay. Okay. Look at this. We've got the game test HTML. It looks a little bit different, but let's test the functionality here. Start the timer. The functionality looks broken.
Hey, I just tried to get back to your website and it's down now. I'm joking.
Don't mess
I'm
around.
joking.
Don't mess around. All right, that's okay. That was a fun little side quest here. Let me finish this one up for the explore on the stage. So I want to get this last one. The multi-turn conversation. Okay, so we're gonna start turn one with a basic request. Put this one in here and say I'm working on creating engaging performances, reviewing. Now it doesn't even know that I'm an instructor here since we didn't give any roles. So it really could come up with anything here. This one's given us general. Make sure you have your learning objectives, know your audience, make sure it's not too easy, not too hard. Engagement and fun, points, levels, badges. It's kind of the standard stuff you need. Quick rounds, variety of question types, clear rules, simple setup. I prefer collaboration. If collaborative and short tasks require communication or shared decision making. Okay. All right. So that's the first one. Very, very generic, kind of a lot of stuff you might already know. Next one, build on the response with specifics. So I'm going to say that's helpful. Now focus on, let's see here. I want to focus on this one. I want to see how we can make it more collaborative. Or, well, this one, I'll just say a class. Higher ed classroom. What would that look like in practice? Team-based problem solving. But these are all the collaboration ones. Students work in small groups to solve a multi-step problem that require discussion and division of labor. Groups analyze a case study and earn points for each successful justified decision. Right? Groups must reach a shared answer, not just individual responses. I do this one in my ESL class, kind of ranking. Collaborative roles, assign rotating roles such as facilitator. Okay, yeah, that's good. Give different roles for the job. Teams contribute pieces. Oh, yeah, like each person has their own task. When collaboration works best, learning goals emphasize depth, interpretation, synthesis, and professional skills. The content is complex enough that multiple minds improve the outcomes. You want to build community or replicate real world. So what would be the advantage here of the competition? So points based, we know. Tournament, we know. Leaderboards is kind of the same thing. And then speed run. Content lends itself to right, wrong answers. You want energy, engagement, and fast-paced review. Yeah, I think that's what I like about Kahoot is it usually got energy. And then the stakes are low. Yeah, we just kind of do that as a fun review. And then it gives us blended collaboration and competition. This would be the most effective in higher ed. Team versus team, multi-level games. So you start out collaborative, then you get competitive, and then you do solo reflections. I like that. Help another team. Okay. Collaborative competition labs. Oh, looking at different methods. What's the best method? I like that. So, okay, turn 3 here. This will be our last one. Create a concrete plan for implementing. Let's see here. Which one did y'all see one that y'all liked? Wanted to do one of these ones from the collaboration. I mean, this is kind of the most simple one here. Team-based problem solving. Below is a concrete, ready to implement plan for a team-based problem solving for 50 to 75 minutes. Got the purpose, it's got the timeline, got every 5 minutes, 5 to 15 minutes, what you got to do. Gives the resources. That's just going to be there the whole time. And then it gives success measures. You've got outcomes. Hopefully they're meeting outcomes. Student feedback. Okay. So those are three. Yep. Thanks. It's going. Those are 3 different approaches. So the apply is going to be very similar. Here, I don't really have time to go through and rate them, but I actually like the first one the most. I felt like that looked the most interesting for the students based on my experience teaching in the classroom. Gets them up, gets them moving around. It's differentiated. It's got kind of like a fun theme to it. This chain of thought was helpful for like thinking about the process of putting it together and all the different kinds of considerations that you might need. And then the multi-turn, I felt like that gave me the most concrete, like, okay, you're gonna do this, right? The time schedule and the resources and all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, in the apply, you're going to choose which one you want, and then you're going to kind of create some templates. So you'll get a template for a role-based expert consultation, chain of thought, and multi-turn. So hopefully y'all can try those out and be successful and get something that you can use for your class. We're down to a couple people left. Thank y'all for sticking around. I appreciate you. I hope you have a nice Thanksgiving.